The Steelers drop not only to 11-3, but they fall to the 3 seed. Buffalo takes over as the 2 seed. And listen, somebody DM'd me on Twitter and said that if the Steelers have to play the Ravens in the first round, they are going to get destroyed. And thank God that the Steelers fall to the 3 seed. That's the best thing that can happen because now they don't have to play the Ravens again. Okay? Hopefully. But, I mean, this game was an utter embarrassment for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought the Steelers couldn't go no lower than what they already were the previous weeks. Well, they went lower. You lose to the Cincinnati Bengals, who were 2-10-1 heading into this game. They're now 3-10-1. This was an offense that has struggled to put up more than 10 points after Joe Burrow's injury. And just think about this. Imagine if Joe Burrow played in this game. This game could have been a lot worse if Joe Burrow was able to play in this game. Because, oh my God. This defense, I felt, was good enough that if the Steelers make it to the playoffs, that they will be able to win a game in the playoffs just because of how good they are. But this defense, yes, this defense is still good, even with the injuries they have. But this defense isn't good enough to carry the Steelers team to a playoff win. If the Steelers want to win in the playoffs, they have to have a complete group effort. Okay? Like, this isn't the Steelers defense from last year. Obviously, with the injuries and everything like that, down to third-string linebackers. But listen, man, I understand why now the play calling has been so conservative. Because the Steelers' offensive line simply can't hold up to throw a pass more than 15 yards. I've been yelling at my TV. Well, not yelling at my TV, but I've kind of been calling out Randy Fichtner. And a lot of Steelers fans have been calling out Randy Fichtner for his lackadaisical play calling, not taking shots down the field. Well, now we understand why. Because his offensive line can't even hold up long enough to give Big Ben enough time to throw a 15-yard pass or allow routes more than 10 yards down the field to develop. Alejandro Villanueva tonight got absolutely bullied by the Cincinnati Bengals defensive lineman, Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson made him his little brother. I'm going to use a more PG word because I don't really like to cuss on here like that because I understand a lot of 12, 13-year-old kids watch my videos, want to keep it PG. But you guys know the word that I want to use to describe it. But Carl Lawson bullied Alejandro Villanueva. And remind you that Alejandro Villanueva is supposed to be one of the best offensive tackles in the NFL. He got bullied. The Steelers offensive line just got bullied in general by the whole entire Cincinnati Bengals defensive line. Ben Roethlisberger looks like Father Time has finally caught up to him. I think that Big Ben has become what Peyton Manning became in 2015. Big Ben started the season out very good. He started the season out great, as a matter of fact. Now, you look at the end of the season, it looks like Big Ben has lost it. And we saw the similar thing happen in 2015 to Peyton Manning. Remember that Thursday night game when he broke some kind of record? After that, everything just went downhill. I feel like that's a similar fate that we're now starting to see our beloved long-term quarterback Ben Roethlisberger suffer. I think that Father Time has finally caught the Big Ben. I've saw bad decision after bad decision. I saw inaccurate throws. This does not look like the Big Ben that we saw at the start of the season. Like, his body, his decision-making has completely broken down. Same thing that we saw from Peyton Manning back in 2015 with the Denver Broncos. And there were people on Twitter, I was going back and forth with one guy saying that it's not Ben Roethlisberger's fault. Let me tell you something. Ben Roethlisberger got Eric Ebron injured in this game. Okay? It's no way you can defend Ben Roethlisberger throwing the football into triple coverage. And it was blatantly obvious. Even if he didn't see Chase Claypool, at least throw the football out of bounds. Triple coverage, threw the ball to Eric Ebron, got Eric Ebron injured. As a quarterback, you never put your wide receivers in that situation. That is the pass that Big Ben should have never threw. And You look at Juju Smith-Schuster. He's going viral right now because he got smacked by Von Bell. There were a lot of you guys who were sending me that video as well, asking me how I felt about it. Listen, I felt like Juju deserved it. Listen, I've been saying that I've been tired of seeing Juju Smith-Schuster dancing on other teams' logos for the last month and a half now. And hopefully Mike Tomlin puts a stop to it. And that's another thing. I'm really disappointed with not only Pittsburgh as of late, but I'm really disappointed in Mike Tomlin. I'm not saying Mike Tomlin has lost this team, but there are things that Mike Tomlin has allowed that he never would have allowed a decade ago. Mike Tomlin is allowing things that he never really allowed a couple of years back. I feel like Mike Tomlin needs to reestablish control. Mike Tomlin came into the NFL as a disciplinarian coach. Yes, the players like playing for him, but he was known as a disciplinarian. He was a no-nonsense kind of coach. And for Mike Tomlin, the fact that he just allows Juju to just dance on other teams' logos and make TikToks before the game, I feel like that's unacceptable. I feel like there has to be some accountability there. He has to hold guys accountable. Where has that went? I understand allowing players to be themselves, but to a degree, you do have to limit that. Juju is supposed to be a role model for these young wide receivers on this roster. How can you be a role model? How can anybody look up to you and take you serious if you're dancing on other teams' logos? I don't care what you do during the game. He hasn't really been all that great. When's the last time he had a 100-yard performance? I understand he's playing the slots, but God, man. Really unacceptable. Deontay Johnson had a bounce-back game. This probably is the best game that Deontay has played over the last 3 weeks. We've seen Chase Claypool now come out of hibernation now that Randy Fichtner is trying to find a way to get him involved. But if we're being honest, man, no way the Steelers win a playoff game. I was giving us a benefit of the doubt that maybe we could win one. But with the way this defense is, and this defense is still very good, by the way, even with the injuries, this defense isn't good enough to carry this Steelers team to a victory like they were able to do last year in 2019. The offense was terrible this game. As a matter of fact, this is the worst that I've seen the Steelers offense play in my whole entire lifetime being a Steelers fan. For the 11 years that I've been a Steelers fan, I'm 18 years old. I was a Steelers fan when I was 8 years old. I've been a fan of this team for 11 years, and I've never seen a more horrible performance put on display than tonight. And remind you that I was watching every single Steelers game from 2019 with Devlin Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph. And even then, there was no worse offensive performance last year than what I saw tonight against the Cincinnati Bengals defense that's not great against the pass, and they're not great against the run. And the Steelers made that defense look like all-stars. The Steelers look like the 3-10-1 team tonight. The Bengals look like the team that was 11-3. Now, in terms of the Cincinnati Bengals, Zach Taylor, for what I'm concerned, has saved his job for one more year. It's just I was questioning if Zach Taylor was the right guy. Because if you can't win at least one game without your starting quarterback, that shows you that you're not a good coach. But the fact that Zach Taylor was able to win against a team that still at the end of the day was a 2-touchdown favorite to win this game, you have to give him props. Zach Taylor still should remain the head coach for Cincinnati going into next year. Okay? But I still don't have a lot of confidence in him moving forward. That's him being the right head coach. But for now, his job is safe. But for Cincinnati, man, you played a good game. You dominated Pittsburgh up front on both sides of the football. The only good thing about Pittsburgh is that you were able to have some semblance of a running game. Benny Snell carried the Steelers' offense. And it's unfortunate that Derek Watt suffered an injury, because I think the biggest problem that the Steelers have in the running game is the fact that they're not using a fullback. When the Steelers were at their best running the football, they were having a fullback in the past. Well, you're not using a fullback anymore. It's basically like you're having one halfback in the backfield and you're handing the football off, and I understand that. But when you have an offensive line that's struggling to create holes, you got to put a fullback in there. The Steelers have to get back to playing a more traditional style of football. Put a fullback in. Run the football for fullback. Now, I know Derek Watt suffered a concussion. Don't know if he's going to be able to play next week against Indianapolis. So, hopefully the Steelers can sign a fullback off somebody's practice squad or sign one in free agency and have somebody ready to go come next week, because the game against Indianapolis, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think that this Steelers defense is too good to allow this team to get blowed out. But I do think as of right now, if I was the odds maker in Vegas, I would favor the Indianapolis Colts to be a 10-point favorite heading into that game, because the Steelers offense is atrocious. And the Indianapolis Colts happen to have one of the best defenses in the NFL. So for Pittsburgh, you have offensive line that's struggling. They're not even giving Big Ben enough time to throw the football 15 yards down the field. You got Ben Roethlisberger, who is breaking down in front of us. There was people on Twitter that were actually calling for Mason Rudolph to start. And I'm going to be honest with you. Mason Rudolph wouldn't have made a difference. As a matter of fact, it probably would have been a lot worse. I don't want to see Mason Rudolph. I don't even want to see Duck Hodges. I'd rather see Joshua Dobbs in that quarterback before I would rather see Mason Rudolph get thrown in or Duck Hodges. I'd rather see Josh Dobbs get thrown in the fire. Okay? Like, for the Steelers, this team does not look good right now. This is the wrong time of the year to be falling off a cliff. And the Steelers, believe it or not, were a good team. But after that Washington loss, Washington exposed a lot of flaws with Pittsburgh. They exposed that the Steelers can't throw the football downfield because, first, the offensive line isn't good enough to hold up in protection. And two, Ben Roethlisberger's decision-making is really questionable. And on top of that, Ben Roethlisberger, if you look at it, probably should have thrown like 4 interceptions in this game, but there were a lot that were dropped. And I know there's going to be Steelers fans that's going to talk about that pass interference call. Listen, yes, that should have been called, but at the end of the day, the Steelers should have never been in that situation anyway. The Steelers should have blew out Cincinnati tonight, and that didn't happen. So the Steelers aren't looking good right now. Really tough to be a Steelers fan. Listen, I will always be proud to be a Steelers fan. I will always represent the Steelers. I don't care how many games in a row we lose. I don't care if the Steelers get blown out. I will always represent this team till I die. Because this is the only team I've been a fan of for the last 11 years. And I don't change teams. I don't bandwagon. I call things how it is. A lot of people always ask, JT, why do you not show more of your Steelers fandom? I think I'm showing it right now. Get what I'm saying? So, for the Steelers moving forward, yes, you got the run game going, but that was against Cincinnati. Their run defense isn't even that good. Their run defense is bad enough to make the Steelers' run game look good. And against Indianapolis, I don't think it's going to be pretty. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I don't think it's going to be close neither. So, the positive for Pittsburgh was you got the run game going, but other than that, wasn't really anything to be impressed about. And remind you that Cincinnati won this game barely throwing the football. They had less than 100 yards passing. They only had 78 passing yards in this game. Like, they barely got over 200 yards as a team of total offense. Steelers couldn't move the ball on third down. Like, couldn't keep the chains moving. I can barely talk right now. My mistake, guys, but kind of tired right now. But, yeah, man, this just was not a good performance from Pittsburgh. A lot of changes need to be made, and they need to be made quickly. You can't fire your off. Well, you probably could and promote Matt Canada. Maybe demote Randy Fichtner and promote Matt Canada, see if anything changes. But there's not really a lot of changes that you want to make for a team that's going to be in the playoffs in the next 3 weeks. But there are changes that you can make internally, such as keeping Juju from making all these TikToks, dancing on teams' logos. Like, I'm really disappointed with Mike Tomlin, man. Like, Mike Tomlin had the Coach of the Year award on lock. He should have won it last year. The Steelers would have made it to the playoffs, but really been disappointed with Mike Tomlin this year as a coach, man. How he's handled this last couple of weeks. I still don't really see any major changes. Like, the changes have to start in the locker room. It has to start with the players first. Has to start with Juju not dancing on teams' logos. I think it starts with that. I think it starts with holding guys accountable. And it doesn't look like anybody has been held accountable. Juju still dancing on teams' logos, despite the fact that the Steelers are now on a 3-game losing streak. Still making TikToks in practice. Like, I think if I'm Mike Tomlin, you got to put the hammer down, man. You got to go back to your roots. You got to go back to being that strict disciplinarian that you were at the start of your career. Like I said, man, poor execution all the way around. I'm still giving the Mike Tomlin the benefit of a doubt and the Steelers team a benefit of a doubt because I would never doubt a team that has an elite coach. Okay, like a lot of people keep calling the Steelers a fluke and things like that. But one thing that you have to understand is that the teams that make it the furthest in the playoffs are the teams that have the best coaches. You're not going to go far if you have an average, barely above average head coach. The teams that go the furthest are not the most talented, but the teams that are the most well coached. And right now, offensively, Steelers don't look all that well coached. Mike Tomlin doesn't look that good of a coach right now. I'm expecting Mike Tomlin to make some adjustments. And he has to make these adjustments quick, fast, and in a hurry because in 6 days, the Steelers have to face the Colts. And that game is going to be really big because if the Steelers lose that game, by the way, they're going to fall to 11-4. And that Week 17 matchup against Cleveland is going to be for the division. And right now, I would take Cleveland to beat Pittsburgh. And I would take the Colts to beat Pittsburgh right now. I think Pittsburgh could end up losing out. And listen, my preseason prediction for the Steelers, as a matter of fact, was 10-6, 11-5. Now, of course, that changed when the Steelers ended up being as good as what they were. They were better than what I expected them to be. But now they're starting to come back to reality. And I don't think this team was a fluke. I just think that teams started to catch on. The offensive line has had so many injuries. You can't throw the football more than 10 yards down the field. Like, you guys can still call Pittsburgh a fluke all you want to, but at the end of the day, the injuries are starting to play a factor. And I'm not using that as an excuse or anything like that because at the end of the day, if you have a great head coach, you should be able to coach this team up to the point that you can still overcome some of those injuries. But what I saw last night, man, was a team that just didn't look well coached. Zach Taylor looked like he was a better coach than Mike Tomlin. And Mike Tomlin has been the Steelers coach for well over a decade now. And he needs to make some adjustments, man. He needs to look at himself in the mirror. I think it all starts with personal reflection. He needs to make some changes. And he needs to do them fast. To be honest, I don't really care if the Steelers lose out the rest of the season. All I want to know is, what is this team going to do come playoff time? A lot of people keep asking me, JT, how you going to feel the Steelers lose the division and things like that? Listen, I don't care. Okay? I don't care if the Steelers lose out. I said that last week. I said at this point, I don't care if the Steelers lose the remaining of their games. I just want this team to be the best team possible come playoff time. I want this team to continue to lose games, and when it comes playoff time, be able to look back at those games and make the necessary adjustments. I would rather the Steelers lose and win a playoff game than have the Steelers win the remaining of their games left this season and lose in the first round of playoffs. Because right now, it looks like the Steelers, if the playoffs were to start today, will be matched up against Indianapolis. So for Pittsburgh, they need to make some adjustments. I know the Steelers have beaten the Colts in the past at home. The Colts have really struggled against Pittsburgh. But I think the Colts should be a 10-point favorite if I was the guy in Vegas making the odds because the Colts are really good up front. This is a really good secondary, a really good defense. And you thought that the Steelers offense struggled to throw the football against Cincinnati tonight. Imagine what's going to happen when they face the Colts. I think the Steelers need to get back to running with a fullback, more I formation, more guys in the backfield to block and help out the run game, because it's just not going to work when you just have this offensive line that isn't great, that's banged up with injuries, and you're trying to run the football with just one guy in the backfield. There has to be a fullback in front of the running back for the Steelers to have success running the football. They need to get back to old school football. More old school football, less nuanced offense. Ben Roethlisberger, once again, almost threw the ball 50 times this game. Like, that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. He threw the ball 38 times tonight. And I understand the Steelers were down, but still, there has to be some changes made to this offense. And I know there's not a lot of changes that can be made schematically, but there are different ways that you can override having a bad off the line other than having to run the same plays every single play. Because at the end of the day, teams was now starting to catch on. You don't even have to back up when you cover the Steelers. Literally, you don't have to backpedal at all. You can just sit there and just play. You can just literally sit there and just wait to react to the football because you know what's going to happen. It's either going to be an out route, or it's going to be a slant, or it's going to be a drag. And it's going to be for 3-4 yards. So literally all you can do is play press man coverage all game on Pittsburgh and literally shut down Pittsburgh's offense. Literally. So for the Steelers, man, a lot of changes have to be made. Really disappointed in the performance tonight. Really disappointed in how Pittsburgh has played the last 3 weeks. Mike Tomlin, disappointed in him. I expect more out of Mike Tomlin being the head coach that he is, being one of the best coaches in the NFL. And at this point, he doesn't deserve to win Coach of the Year. Like, he is the favorite according to several sports booking websites that do odds to win Coach of the Year this year. But I don't see how you can give it to him at this point. Like, this team doesn't look well coached. A lot of changes need to be made, and they need to be made fast. Because I don't even care if the Steelers lose to the Colts next week. I don't care if they lose to the Browns the following week and don't win the division. I just want the Steelers to be able to win a playoff game, and that's it. So, this video went longer than what I wanted it to, but I feel like this video, like, it's not really that much I can say, man. Like, there are a lot of problems with Pittsburgh, and a lot of problems that I'd rather see fixed come playoff time than get fixed and, still lose or win games and stuff like that. I really don't care at this point. I don't care about getting a number 2 seed. I don't care about getting a number 3 seed because at this point, the Steelers are 2 games back of the Kansas City Chiefs. It's no way they're going to get the number 1 seed at this point unless Kansas City has collapsed of their own. But at this point, it doesn't matter. I'd rather this team be the best version of themselves come playoff time than be the best version of themselves come next week. Still doesn't mean I don't want this team to improve. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying I'd rather this team lose the remainder of their games and be competitive in the playoffs than win the remainder of their games and get stomped in the first round. So that's it for this video. Make sure